Hello, criminal justice fans, and welcome back to The Darkest Files. So I think we're pretty much at the end of our second case here. I think this will be the last episode
Miss
for it.
Katz, they completed the search.
Nice.
Oh, and there's a new anonym for you. Sorry.
Anonym? Alright. Well, as I was saying, I think this will be the last episode. We'll see on this case. I agree with the title of the game because these have been some dark cases, to say the least.
Did they find anything?
Oh, they sure did. Turns out, young Miss Becca was something of a diarist. The officers took the liberty of bookmarking the entries following the bombing. I'd say they prove most enlightening.
Is that so? I'll better give them a read then.
Alright,
Miss
what
Katz.
else?
Thank you, Paula.
Okay, that's all she had. Let's go say good morning to Marlene.
How about we switch, You can lead the case and I'll lounge around here. No? Too bad. Oh, hello, Marlene. Oh, I'm glad you are so cooperative.
Gotta pet the cat to start the day. It's just the way it is. Alright. Anyways, let's get to it.
Let's see
What-
about that anonym. More death threats is exactly what I need now. This is nothing short of a confession. Why, who could have sent this?
This is from Wolfgang. Dearest mother, dearest father, dear God, I doubt, no, I am sure that this letter will never reach its destination. We are surrounded. The city lies in ruins. We hide in the citadel and wait for it all to end. I will die tonight, and if not tonight, then soon. The Russian bullets have made sure of that. I can feel my life fading. Before I pass on from this world, there are things that were left unsaid. I will say them now. Father, mother, I wish I could have been a better son, more caring, more kind. Forgive me. Amelia Becker, I curse you. I curse your wretched life with my dying breath. I hope they will never find happiness and joy again. I hope you die. I hope you suffer. My Anna, I am sorry. I know you could never have done all those dreadful things, but I believed her. What a fool I was. Do you remember when the bombs fell? When the city burned? I wish I had never escaped the flames. I wish I never lived. I wish we had more time. I am sorry, my beloved Anna. Soon I will be gone. I only wish there was a place for me where you are, but I know there is not. Farewell, Wolf Kirkman. Okay. That definitely needs to be added to the case file. You should prepare the blueprint for trial. Mr. Bauer asked to see you once you're done with the case. Got it. German government demands release of POWs. Bonn, the Federal Republic, has informed Moscow that any progress in German-Soviet trade relations depends on the release of German prisoners still held in Soviet camps. 12 years after the war ends, thousands of German soldiers remain in Soviet custody. The government's firm stance reflects growing public pressure to resolve this humanitarian issue before considering economic cooperation with the Soviet Union. It's sort of an interesting thing because, in a way, I completely agree. People being held as basically hostages from a war is just wrong. But it is at the same time, they are Nazis. So it does make it an interesting situation. And I'm not being, symbolic like a lot of people today when I'm calling somebody who is not a Nazi. These prisoners of war would, without a question, actually be Nazis. Does Germany want those people back in their country? Interesting. Young prosecutor's crusade raises concern. Frankfurt, in what observers call an alarming development, State Attorney Esther Katz has filed charges against decorated veteran Wolfgang Kirchmann. The case, emerging from State Attorney General Bauer's office, represents another troubling attempt to reopen settled matters from the war period. Critics note this latest prosecution could damage West Germany's standing among NATO allies while providing propaganda material for the Eastern Bloc. Ms. Katz's aggressive pursuit of the case reflects the controversial priorities of her superior, whose office continues to disturb social peace with these disruptive investigations. Yeah, I think you guys should read Wolfgang's letter to see if he feels the same way you do. Alright, let's go to the case files because I'm sure we have something new with that diary. Let's see here. Transcripts probably is just having Wolfgang's transcript in here. Yeah, that's all it is there. So that's good to go. Stealing, no doubt, as if people didn't lose enough. Alright, let me get this in transcript form. Stealing, no doubt, as if people didn't lose enough. Later I saw her bring a suitcase to our apartment, put it under the bed. We share a wall, my bed is right by it, and hers on the other side. I can hear them when he comes. How he speaks with her, how she lies. I can't take it. Why didn't I think of it earlier? She was there, the damned Polak. I saw her. It's so simple. She brought the suitcase here. If I tell them where she got it, I'll be finally free of that pest. Just need Wolf to... He'll see. He'll have to finally see. Alright. Yeah, so this was all her idea. When did this occur? Um... 10:20. At 10:25. Alright, that's information I needed as well. So let's go back over here. So on the 20th is when this took place. So we have evidence of her setting this up beforehand. And here was the piece of evidence that I was looking for. That soldier boy is taking up the phone. Why is he always here? So at 10:20, it was him on the phone, not her. So while she's behind it all, it's really he was the one that made the call. Sometimes you get stuck on things right now. I don't know why. A little bit sticky. Alright, who called the police on Anna? Kirkman called. Kirkman called the police. They weren't even in the hallway, but you know what? That's fine. Who planted the suitcase in Anna's room? Nobody did. Anna brought it back. I've got all the evidence to show that. Who searched Anna's room and confiscated the suitcase? That... Whoop.
Essie, hello. I hope I'm not disturbing you.
Not at all. Don't worry.
Good, I'm glad. I know how hectic those last moments of a case can be. I wanted to wish you good luck. I've kept my ear out about your case, and it's a tough one. I'm impressed with how well you have been handling it. Impressed and a little bit worried.
My curiosity is getting to me. I want to know if he... No, you know what? I'm not going to get into the other guy's case because I don't want to tip them off that I might know.
Why are you worried?
Essie, honestly, you're smarter than this. It's one thing to go after NSDAP like last time, but the police... An officer in active duty, no less. Not to even mention the military man, Kirchmann, was it? You're not making yourself many friends with this case.
And I don't care.
But before you start, I'm not saying you shouldn't be doing this. I'm just worried.
Thank you. That's kind of you to say.
It's the truth, Essie. I am proud of you.
Nice. Very good job.
You've been saying that a lot lately. Is everything alright?
Yes, of course. I've simply come to realize I've never said it enough, and I should have. I'm proud of you, and nothing can change that.
I do wonder if he's not trying to spy on Peter's case.
Alright. Now to see what Mr. Bauer wanted to talk about.
Yeah, no, we're not done yet. I've got setup to do here. Alright, what was I looking for? Suspects, I think, is where it's at. They came for that girl. Finally, eluder. The kind officer said there's a difference. Showed me the suitcase she took. Offered him a cigarette in return. All right, so it was the small officer who took the suitcase because he had the cigarette, and we have proof of that with this picture and documents that said he was a smoker. All right, so that's going to be Klaus that took it, not Otto. Alright. Who searched Anna's room and confiscated the suitcase? That would be Nowak. Wagner would be in here. And she would be out here, as would they. So, at this point, they're both in here. He's in here. I mean, they aren't there at this point, but I don't think I can remove them entirely. Yeah, no. They've got to be on the map somewhere. Alright. Yeah, Klaus Nowak searches the room. Who made sure Anna was considered a traitor. Alright, so then Nowak comes out here, and it was Amelia Becker who talks. Who beat Anna for a confession? That would be Wagner. Actually, it's hard to tell. It could be both of them. Huh. I know for a fact Wagner did it. The hard part's going to be, did both of them do it or not? That's what I'm trying to decide now. I don't think I have yeah, I'm going to leave it this way. I'm going to put him out there, I think. Actually, let me see. There's two documents I want to see. I want to see the transcript from Heidi. Not Amelia. Heidi. Amelia claimed Anna had looted the suitcase for a ruined house. So as on her stairs, I heard both policemen start to torture Anna. So she was not outside. He was not outside then at the point. She's saying he was not in there. There's one other place I want to check, and that's the neighbor's information again. All right. Doesn't say I don't think I have evidence to prove Noack. Go back to the transcripts. It's all about what you can prove, for one. Alright, according to this, they were both still in the... His is the most honest testimony there, so I'm going to say when this was going on, Heidi's out in the hallway. So it'd be like that. So let's play it from the beginning. Yeah, I think that's the correct way there. Alright. Who called the police on Anna? Alright, so for one, we have the old case file itself. Yeah, so this would be the first piece that I would suggest is going to be there. Let's see then. What do I want next? Probably the neighbor's note. I mean, I know for a fact the neighbor's notes need to be there because those show that he was the one that was on the phone. Yeah, so that's good. Then do I... His note doesn't really say he did it, though, did it? Yeah, doesn't say. Amelia, though, did say, didn't she? Yeah, there we go. Alright, so we've got that. We'll combine those together.
This makes sense.
Good. Alright, who planted a suitcase? No one did. So, Anna said it herself. Yeah, yeah, so she says it there. Wait a second, did she? Red scarf. Red scarf. So that would sort of corroborate her point there. All right. Then an interrogation, maybe? He wasn't there, so he can't know. No. No. That would work. I mean, he is a police officer still, so maybe we can believe his story?
It
Yeah,
looks
he's a
something
bad
like
cop,
this.
but he's still a cop. Alright. So then, who searched Anna's? Both of them say it, but it's almost more damning, I think, coming from her, since she's in on the whole situation. So we'll have that one for sure. Let's see. Oh yeah, that's right. I wanted to use the, I almost forgot. I wanted to use the note from the old woman next door. Almost forgot about that. Let's see here. Yeah. So I need that, and then I'm gonna need the picture of him as well in order to prove it. So he's the one that smokes right there. We've got the smoking going on. That
It
should
must
work
have been like
fine.
this.
This one's 100% Amelia. So, what do I want to use for it? I mean, we've got Heidi said it. So did... We've got multiple people that have said it. But Heidi's the most trustworthy of them all. The other two are sort of playing off each other. He might have said it otherwise to get away with it. I don't think I'm supposed to use more than one transcript in a particular one interview. I think I should use other things instead. What else proves? Whoever elevated the charge must have really hated her. I mean, I could use her... her pages here. Wait a second. Yeah, this is the, if I do that one and this one, it shows that she was trying to get her in trouble. Where's the other one? Yeah, like that.
Now I can see it.
I mean, I've got her diary, but I also want somebody who saw her do it. I want the testimony from the day, so I do want that, but if I use the diary page, that's great, but then I can't prove that the thing that was sent shows it, so I'd have to use 2 interrogations instead. I think this way's better. I do. Alright, so we've got now this part. So, how do I know that he's the one that did it? Here it said that following the delivery of the suspect, Junior Watchmaster required administration of first aid. So we've got that, and then we could use the photograph with that of his hurt hand. There. Now we have this that says he's the Junior Watchmaster. But again, I should have somebody say it from the day that happened. He wasn't there, so he doesn't really work. And alright, so Amelia does say it. Who else says it? Both of them say it. He says that Nowak did it. He says both of them did it, so I have to use Amelia's here. Yeah, we'll use Amelia's.
It must have been like this.
Alright. I'm actually going to change this on the beating. And I'm going to put Nowak out there. Because I'm sort of going with what Becker said. We can even put Kirchman in here, looking for evidence as he said. Actually, it doesn't make sense though with the first guy's thing that when he gets there he says. So yeah, we'll put him out there. We'll leave these 2 in here. That I think will be good enough. Alright, so that's there. I just want to before I do this, I had a glitch on the first episode. I had to redo the assignment of the evidence and do the court part again before I was able to start the second trial. And I had this issue where it kept getting me stuck, where I wasn't able to click on the next conclusion. So before I do that, let me go ahead and save here real fast, just to make sure if something were to happen, don't have to redo all that. I just want to check them to make sure. So we got 1025 there. We have the soldier there. And then we have Amelia saying it there.
Now I can see it.
I'm not sure if the successful automatically means it's good or not. I should probably try, and maybe the next case, on putting a few together that don't make sense and see what happens. So we've got her here talking about it. We've got here the red scarf. And then we have Otto's here where he says that no one went into the room. So that works.
Now I can see it.
Then we've got him smoking. We've got her talking about that he is the one that smokes. And we have here Amelia saying, it's amazing how Amelia is going to be so key to so much of the evidence, even though she's the ringleader behind it. Yeah, I'm going to go with Heidi saying this, though it does hurt her case that she does say this up here. But the fact is, the other guy has more of a reason to, because he's guilty of something. Heidi is not. And then we have this whole noble attempt in both of these here, so that works fine there.
It must have been like this.
Here we have the injured wrist. older officer left with the suitcase while the younger one beat her. And then we also have that the junior watchmaster required. I mean, I could, if I could put more evidence, I could put the paper that says that he's also the junior watchmaster here. But I think these are the most solid pieces of evidence for it. Alright, we've got everything set up there. Prepare for court. Tell Mr. Bauer about the issues. Alright. Let's go talk to Mr. Bauer.
Miss Cutts, thank you for coming. I understand the case is ready for court.
Yes, Mr. Bauer.
That's good to hear. Miss Cutts, I won't dance around the topic. I have an important question for you. Why are you here?
Didn't give me an answer I really liked. I mean, I'm here because I believe in this work. I mean, and that's actually me. I would do this work. This is the kind of work that I think needs to be done. These type of people need to be held accountable. I'm going to go ahead and say you asked me to, though, because I believe he did.
Because you asked to see me.
Technically correct. Alas, technicality won't work this time. You've always known this job would not be easy or grateful. And by now you're sure to have noticed that what you knew didn't even begin to cover it. People hate you. They want to see you fail. Celebrate every hurdle in your path, curse and discredit every hard-won success. Hardly an inciting prospect for a promising lawyer of your intellect. And, let's face it, one blessed with the connections of your father. With all the options open to you, why did you choose to join the most hated man in Frankfurt?
I agree with this. It's the right thing to do.
As you said yourself, it's the right thing to do.
And for me, that remains true. But is it for you, Miss Cutts? Is it really?
He thinks I'm a spy. I think it's time to tell him the story.
I had this friend growing up. Her name was Lotte. Charlotte Lang.
And she was Jewish.
The Langs were our neighbors. Lived on the ground floor across the street. Had the entire floor to themselves. They were bankers before the war, before the racial laws. Our families were close. Mr. Lang studied together with my father, and they used to partner in some business. Lotte was the same age as me. Our parents knew each other, we were both girls, and we lived right next door. Was it even possible for us to not end up best friends? It sounds stupid now, talking about a friendship between children, but we were close, like sisters.
But it didn't last.
I don't remember when things changed. Not exactly. You don't really see those things when you're a kid. Slowly, our parents became weird around each other. Different.
Then the Nuremberg laws happened.
Were enacted.
My mother, she forbade me from seeing Lotte. Said she was a bad influence. That I shouldn't associate with her element. We got into an argument. No, that's not right. I had a tantrum. I was 8, so any sort of lip from me was a tantrum.
And did you stop?
No, not at first. Not for a while. We tried to keep together. Mostly at school, away from our parents. Then our classmates started whispering. Then the older and younger kids, the teachers. And little by little, I abandoned her. Other than me, she'd never had many friends. With me gone, she was alone.
Wow. I was wrong about what had happened exactly, but it's still terrible.
It was hard at first. It hurt. Lotte was my friend, and I left her. I knew it was wrong, but I still did. I was angry, embarrassed. With my mother, with the teachers, with everyone, including myself. But again, little by little as time passed, that's the worst part. It became normal. I remember one time a few years later, I was on my way back from school. Wasn't far from home, just the next street over. I heard it before I saw it. 3 older boys from school in Hitlerjugend uniforms. And Lotte, you can guess what they did. She was on the floor. They kicked her on the alley, spit on her, called her. I was there. I should have said something, done something. I don't know.
But you didn't.
They noticed me, confronted me. Confronted. Now that's rich. They didn't even have to threaten me. I ran away anyway. I didn't see her after that. Not until the night. The dogs woke me up. They started barking as soon as the cars pulled in. It was the middle of the night, 2 or 3 in the morning. I saw them from my... They kicked the door in. Herded them out like animals. Like fish. Lotte was the last one. I know how it sounds, but before disappearing into the van, for just a moment, she turned towards me. As if she knew I was there.
I see. Miss Katz, would you say then that this work, what we're doing here, is personal for you?
Yes, very much so.
A pity. I must say, I find that disappointing. Miss Katz, I cannot overstate this enough. This isn't, and cannot be, about you. Or about me, for that matter. Or Mr. Peters, Miss Fisher, Mr. Wohlmuth, anybody here. Nor should it be about your friend, as tragic as her story is. We are not heroes here. Our goal isn't to avenge, heal, or redeem, neither the dead nor the living. Our task, our duty, is much greater than that. We are prosecutors, and what we do is we see justice done. We make sure that all actions have consequences. That's the only way we can stop all of this from happening again. That is why I want to see you in court tomorrow, not to make it up to your friend, not to ease your guilty conscience, not even to give Miss Kazmirek or her family their closure. The one reason you should stand in that courtroom tomorrow is to see justice done, to uphold the law, because that is our duty.
Okay, that was a bit of a talking to, but
I still need to get Paula to prepare the indictment.
so I got a bit quiet there, and there is a reason for it. While, as I said, I do appreciate the history and everything about this, I had family that were Jewish and were affected by the Holocaust. And not all of them did make it out of Germany, as far as I understand.
Oh,
So
hello, Malena.
I can understand a lot what she's
I'm
saying.
glad you are so cooperative.
And I agree with him. I completely agree with him. I'm not saying I don't. I understand that the particular cases have to be done by the law. But the fact is, I definitely feel good in prosecuting people who did things like this. These people deserve what they're getting. And I will do what I can as a prosecutor in this type of a situation. I would, to ensure that justice is served.
Miss Katz, are you done with the case?
As ready as I'll be.
Isn't that always the truth? I'll start writing the indictment to send tomorrow. In the meantime, I'm still here for a few hours, just in case you want to change anything. Thank you, Lord, for Mr. Bauer's stance on overtime pay.
There's nothing left for me to do. I should call it a day.
Alright. We could do it as a separate video for the court, but you know what? I want to do it, so let's get to it.
It's time.
I am not a fan of the smoking like she is, but
Order.
it was something of the time, so I get it.
This court is now in session. Judge Ernst Braun presiding, considering the case of Anna Kazmirek. Speaking for the prosecution, counsel Esther Katz. Representing the defendants Wagner and Becker, counsel Rudolf Schramm. And counsel Sigmund Hauptner, representing the defendants Grunewald and Kirchmann. I ask the prosecution to present their theory. Ms. Katz, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Anna Kazmirek was a barely 19-year-old girl who had just lost everything she could call hers. She was the only daughter of a sickly widow and the only one who could provide for both of them. She had friends, she had a boyfriend. She had dreams, hopes. She had a future. We are not here today to debate the accusations against her or the possibility of her guilt. We are here because of the crimes against her. On the morning of October 20th, 1944, 2 officers of the Schutzpolizei arrived at the temporary lodgings of Anna Kazmirek. The reason behind their visit was an anonymous phone call made earlier that same morning. The caller had reported a theft, naming Ms. Kazmirek as the perpetrator.
Alright.
This caller was none other but the accused Wolf Kirchmann, the girl's boyfriend.
What?
Leaving his motivation aside for the moment, it is because of his call that the police became interested in the victim. Because of his accusations. Anna Kazmirek was tortured and killed because Wolfgang Kirchmann reported her to the police.
That's right. He wanted to get rid of her.
What? I knew it. You're just the same as the rest of those
Order.
Objection, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Hauptner?
According to Mr. Kirchmann, the person to make the call was the accused Emilia Becker, who, as we learned from our witnesses, made no secret of her distaste for the victim. Having learned of the crime, Mrs. Becker did what she believed was right. She called the police to inform them of her suspicions,
Mr. Chairman, I have to...
which in itself does not constitute a criminal act.
Ah,
So I must ask, why should we consider the prosecution's theory of more probable?
Objection sustained. Unless Ms. Katz can substantiate her claims, naturally.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I'm like, just give me a chance. I will prove that I'm right. Alright, yeah, 1025. 10:28. The soldier is talking on the phone. Why is he always here? And then we have Amelia Becker's statement.
The call in question, as we can see in the police report, was made earlier that morning at 10:25. At the same time, a particularly meticulous neighbor had noticed somebody occupying the shelter's phone. A soldier boy who was friends with the Kasmarek woman.
What?
The accused, Wolfgang Kirchmann.
You've proven your point, Miss Katz. Objection overruled.
Nice.
You piece of shit.
Miss Grunewald, this is a court of law.
Tragedy. Tragedy.
Oh, we're not done
Let's
with you yet.
proceed. Miss Katz?
During the interrogation of Miss Kasmarek, the officers recovered a suitcase hidden in a room. It matched the description of the stolen items provided in the phone call. As you have heard, however, some of the witnesses claim that said suitcase was planted.
But it wasn't.
It is the prosecution's belief that this was not the case. The suitcase was found in Miss Kasmarek's room because she had brought it there. Which is not to say we believe the accusations that were levied against her. It is our stance that the suitcase in question belonged to Miss Kasmarek and her mother.
I see. Does the defense have anything to add in this question?
No, Mr. Chairman. For once, I would say Miss Katz seems to have it right.
I have to disagree. The question of the suitcase appears to be crucial to this case, and it needs to be given the proper scrutiny. As such, I'm surprised the prosecution has chosen to disregard the testimonies of two witnesses. According to both Mrs. Grunewald and Mr. Kirchmann, the supposedly looted suitcase was planted in the victim's room. Planted by Mrs. Becker while the victim was being interrogated by the police.
Miss Katz, your response? Is there anything you can say to prove the defense wrong?
Certainly.
Easy enough. Just checking to make sure my stuff is right.
Miss Kasmarek admitted to having taken the suitcase, not only in her testimony, questionable as it was.
They made her say it! We did no such thing, Mr. Chairman.
But also in her final letter to her mother.
What?
In it, she specifies she had believed it to be theirs because of a characteristic red scarf. The same scarf is described in the evidence form for the recovered suitcase.
Miss Katz, you've proven your point. Objection overruled.
Bullcrap! It was Becker! It had to be.
As if she brought it all on herself.
Please continue, Miss Katz.
I can't wait to get
Halfway
her.
through their interrogation, one of the officers left for the victim's room and searched it for the suitcase in question. It is possible that, having found it, this officer could have left the building, placing him away from the crime scene for the events that followed.
Yeah, this was Nowak.
The officer in question was the deceased Klaus Nowak.
Objection. According to Mr. Wagner, he was the one to search the room. Why has the prosecution decided to distrust the words of an officer of the law?
Miss Katz, if you have any proof to back your theory, now would be the time to present it.
Gladly, Mr. Chairman.
Check my proof again here, because I do feel confident in it. Alright, we have Amelia's word here. Older officer, the one in charge, escorted Miss Grunewald. Yep. Then we have that he liked smoke. And then we have the picture of him smoking.
Mr. Nowak has been recognized as the officer who searched the room by multiple witnesses, including one we haven't heard from, Mrs. Hausler, a neighbor of the victim. She had seen and talked with him as he left the scene with the suitcase in hand.
I must have misremembered that.
Misremembered. Indeed. Mr. Sharp, your objection is overruled. Miss Katz, if you would.
Here, I need to bring your attention to the crime Anna Kazmarek was sentenced for, that of looting, treason. Yet, as we've heard, the charges the officers had arrived to investigate were merely of theft. How did this change? When did theft become looting?
Now, I think Nowak was still here at this point, so I'm going to leave him there.
It was because of the words of Emilia Becker.
Oh, finally, that's right.
Mrs. Grunewald, I warn you.
Following the retrieval of the suitcase, Mrs. Becker approached the officers and offered a clarification. She claimed the suitcase in question was hers
I did not.
and had been taken from the ruins of her bombed house, a voluntary evacuated building.
That's right. I heard her say it.
It is the prosecution's position that she knew this would qualify the supposed crime as looting, branding Miss Kazmarek a traitor.
This is madness.
Mrs. Becker did so fully aware of how harsh the verdict would be.
Objection. Why has the prosecution chosen to ignore the testimony of Mrs. Becker? She states clearly that it was Wolfgang Kirchmann who told the officers the suitcase had been looted rather than stolen. That because of him, Miss Kazmarek's charges were elevated to those of looting and treason.
Miss Katz, can you present any proof to support your claim?
Certainly.
Yeah, I like having that there. Let's hope this
Mrs.
works.
Becker is the only one of the suspects that we know hated the victim.
I didn't. What would that even prove?
She's also the only one that we can be sure had raised further accusations against her, ones that were considered in her trial. This document is one of the opinions on Anna Kazmarek's character from the original trial's investigation. It is anonymous, but as you can see, the handwriting is a match for that of Mrs. Becker.
Thank you, Miss...
And you know what? I do it again.
Mrs. Becker.
Are you all blind? Are you idiots? So what if the damn suitcase wasn't mine? So what if I embellished it a little bit? She wasn't some innocent angel, you idiots. The damn Polak was a thieving, manipulating whore.
Order. This is a court of law, not some Sunday market, and you will behave accordingly, Mrs. Becker.
Ha!
The same goes for you, Mrs. Grunewald. Now, let the record show that the prosecution has proven their accusation, and that the accused has admitted to it.
Nice.
Miss Katz, proceed to your next point.
Now we just need to
The
hold
final
the...
question remains. Today we've heard from 4 witnesses whose recollections of the events varied, to say the least. Yet, they all shared a common point. One event on which all witnesses agreed. Anna Kazmarek did not confess of her own will. Anna Kazmarek was tortured. She was beaten by the accused Otto Wagner, who inflicted significant bodily harm upon the girl, repeatedly assaulting her until she admitted her guilt. She was forced to give a confession that would satisfy the officer, without regard for its veracity.
Objection.
Let's hear it.
The only witness claiming to have seen the perpetrator after the beating is Mr. Kirchmann. And from his testimony, it is abundantly clear that he was not of his right mind. It is the defense's opinion that the testimony of Otto Wagner presents a more plausible course of events. It was the defendant's partner and superior, Klaus Nowak, who tortured the victim. Mr. Wagner himself was unaware of this, as he had already left not only the room, but the apartment itself.
Miss Katz, if you would, I will require more proof.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman.
We've got proof for you. Just want to make sure it's all good here. Because we do have Amelia Becker's word, but she's now a criminal. So, yeah, I feel good about it still.
In this photo, you can see an officer with bruises on his hands, which would match those you could get by, for example, beating somebody up. This officer is none other than the accused Otto Wagner, and the photo was taken on the day of Ms. Kazmarek's arrest. Mr. Novak, who's also present in the center of the photo, has no such marks.
Very well. I consider your claims proven.
But I had to. She wouldn't admit it. She just wouldn't. She was guilty. She was. I was just doing the right thing.
Now, before I pronounce the verdict, is there anything else this court should be aware of?
I don't think so. I'm gonna go with no.
Not from the prosecution side.
The defense has nothing to add either.
Very well then. I've heard enough. All rise. This court has reached the following verdict. In the case of the defendant Wolfgang Kirchmann...
Hauptmann.
Yes. Hauptmann Wolfgang Kirchmann. Born March 17th, 1924, residing at Buschstraße 34, Bonn. For the crime of deprivation of liberty resulting in death, this court finds the defendant not guilty.
What?
What?
As the prosecution proved, Ms. Kazmarek was arrested due to the report made by the defendant. However, as the theory was presented, there is no indication of this being a criminal act. Hauptmann Kirchmann's actions were simply to report a suspected crime. In doing so, he did not break any laws, neither contemporary nor present. Hauptmann Kirchmann, you are discharged. Next in the case of the defendant Emilia Becker.
She's
Born
guilty.
December 4th, 1924, residing at Kaiserstraße 11, Brunswick. The defendant is found guilty of the crime of murder through indirect perpetration.
What?
Considering the prosecution's proof, no other verdict can be justified.
Yeah.
Anna Kazmarek's death was a direct result of the defendant's premeditated actions and knowingly false testimony.
No. No. This isn't possible. I did nothing wrong.
Defendant Emilia Becker, you are hereby sentenced to life imprisonment.
Nice.
And lastly, in the case of defendant Otto Wagner, born February 23rd, 1918, residing at Georg Westermann Allee 75, Brunswick, for the crime of assault for coercion of confession, this court finds the defendant guilty.
No.
The prosecution has proven beyond reasonable doubt that it was in fact Mr. Wagner, and Mr. Wagner alone.
I had to do it.
Who forced the victim to give her confession through torture. Defendant Otto Wagner, you are hereby sentenced to 3 years in prison. This court is adjourned.
I guess that's the way it was supposed to go there. I mean, I presented the evidence as it should be, and really, I do agree with the judge's decision, the way he actually explained it. Wolfgang should have gone free. I feel a little bit bad that he got to go free because he was involved, But you know what? The person who really did it was these two. He was wrong for abusing a person like he did, and she is a monster, and I would be happy that she'd get life imprisonment. Justice for Ennis victim, prosecution proved right on all counts. 100% investigation, interrogation, and case solution. Perfect. Alright, let's get the real case here because I'm curious on this one. Brunswick, October 18th, 1944. 3 days after the bombing of the city, Amelia Becker filed a complaint about stolen property that she had hidden before the air raid. In her complaint, she named Anna Kazmarek, an acquaintance with whom she was in conflict, as a suspect. 2 days later, officers Otto Wagner and Klaus Nowak of the protective police arrived at Anna Kazmarek's temporary lodgings where they interrogated her. She was beaten and forced to provide a confession. The confession perfectly matched the events as outlined in Amelia Becker's complaint and was significantly different from the actual events, which would be confirmed by multiple witnesses decades later. Within 24 hours, based solely on her confession, Anna Kazmarek was charged and tried with looting under the Ordinance Against Public Enemies, commonly called the People's Pest Law. Despite her lack of previous criminal history, the absence of any evidence or corroborating testimony, the positive impression she left on the court, Anna Kazmarek was found guilty and sentenced to death. During the trial, none of the available witnesses for the defense were called, and no attempt to question Anna Kazmarek's confession was made. On November 23, 1944, at 12:07, Anna Kazmarek was executed by guillotine in Wolfenbüttel. In the years 1952-1966, there have been 5 attempts to overturn Anna Kazmarek's verdict. All were unsuccessful. It would only be in 1991 that Anna Kazmarek's case was reopened for the final time. For the first time, witnesses on whom the previous courts refused to call were allowed to testify. They all confirmed Anna Kazmarek's innocence. On March 20th, 1991, almost 47 years after her execution, Anna Kazmarek was acquitted. There was no condemnation of the original trial. All names used in the game have been changed. Similarities with real persons bearing these names are purely coincidental, but the story remains true and is one of many. That is terrible. It took 47 years for her to be found innocent. And the thing that bothers me more is, because of that, while I got life imprisonment for Amelia Becker, she probably walked scot-free on this and never served a day in her life, even for the terrible garbage that she did there. Whoever that woman is, hopefully the rest of her life was pretty miserable. I can only hope that she died alone and bitter, because that's what a person like that truly deserves. And as I said, the game really fits its title. That's dark. We got 5 of 5, we got 7 of 7, and we got 100 of 98. I don't know how that works exactly, but we did get 100 of 98. Very happy with that.
I'm told that year's Christmas at the Wolfenbüttel Women's Prison was quite an event for the incarcerated. It was in no small regard due to the exemplary work of inmate Becker, who volunteered to help organize it. This sort of activism would take up most of her time, as she took it on herself to return the women there to the Lord. To say Mr. Wagner cried at the verdict as laughably lenient as it was would be an understatement. He bawled like a little boy. He claimed he was told that she was guilty, that without a confession she'd get away with it, that it had to be done. That's what they all did. It had to be right. And all Otto Wagner ever wanted was to do right. There seemed to be no emotion on Mr. Kirchmann's face as the verdict was pronounced. While the room got filled with angry shouts and insults, refutals, denials, he simply stood up, silent, and left. He said goodbye to the city on the same day, taking the evening train south back to Bavaria, where his duty awaited. But it would only be 3 days before we'd hear of him once more. It was the house cleaner who found him in the office on the second floor of his house, in full dress uniform fallen on top of his military decorations, carefully laid out on the desk. The pistol already cold, still in his hand. He left no letter. Mrs. Grunewald and Mr. Hans were quick to celebrate the verdict, quick and loud. They ended up having to be escorted out of the courtroom. But Mrs. Hans, Theresa Hans, didn't join in their enthusiasm. Yes, some justice for Anna was achieved, that's true. But after all, justice was not what she had wanted. What she had really wanted was the impossible. Her daughter back. Why are we here? Why do we pick at these old wounds? Why don't we let the past be? It is because it would be too easy to choose to forget, to ignore, to stay silent. And isn't that how we got here in the first place? Acceptance by silence. The silence of the people who all partook in the system that killed her. A system they created and agreed to. They lived in it, obeying, upholding, and empowering its rules. A system that without them couldn't exist. Yes, we cannot undo what has already happened. We cannot undo Miss Kashmarek's death, but we must learn from it. To choose the truth and not the lie. Justice, not injustice. Right instead of wrong. So no other girl shares the fate of Anna Kashmarek.
Huh. Epilogue.
Hello? Anybody here?
No one there.
The door is locked. The door is locked.
Miss Cutts, we need to talk about the future of this department. We will change the way we are working. And I'm afraid you won't get your own cases anymore.
Yeah, did I do anything wrong?
Did I do anything wrong?
It has nothing to do with your performance. Are you familiar with the case Peters has been working on?
The blank suspension's already signed?
Exactly. A witness gave us documents that the SS wanted to destroy just before the end of the war. Unfortunately, or rather fortunately, they did not succeed in burning all of them. These documents prove that certain judges gave blanket acquittals for the killing of camp inmates. Of course, we always knew that the tens of thousands of people who were supposedly shot on the run were in fact systematically murdered. The Nazi state tried to maintain the appearance of legality until the very end. The problem of Auschwitz, you would probably agree, did not begin at the gates of Auschwitz and Birkenau. People had to be brought there, which means there were many, many perpetrators. There was an entire system behind it. With these documents, we could finally succeed in bringing the Auschwitz system to justice. Not only those who actively carried out the killings, or those who gave the orders at the very top, who are either dead or somewhere in South America today, but also those who kept the system running that made it all possible. The desk murderers. We will bring them to justice. Together. That's why I can't give you any more cases. I need everyone to help with this one. We will bring Auschwitz to court.
So the game's gonna end, it seems like. I was really actually looking forward to my next case. But you know what? This is a huge part of history, and I do get it.
Thank you for your trust.
Good. Several packages arrived from Poland. These are more lists of the kind Peters found. I asked Paula to put them on your desk.
Speaking of which, where is everybody?
Paula has an appointment. Mr. Peters is at court and Mr. Wohlmuth is visiting relatives in Munich. So it's you and me today. Best you get to work. There is a lot to do.
Will do. So, what do we have here? Even more of these, of course. How did you all actually die? How did they kill you? And here's our good friend. Another empty one. Figures. That's a new one. Time to expand the suspect list. Wait, this one... I know this one. No, 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 no!
It's my dad.
Oh God, what do I do now?
Well, as I told you earlier in the episode, what happened wasn't right. At all.
I need to tell Mr. Bauer, but not over the phone.
All right.
Miss Katz,
Mr. Bauer?
what is it? Found something in the files?
Yeah.
It's about my dad. He...
The Auschwitz execution files, recovered in 1945 from a burning courthouse in Breslau, proved crucial in establishing Frankfurt's court jurisdiction over the Auschwitz complex. The files contained lists of prisoners shot in 1942 during alleged escape attempts and named 37 members of the SS as the shooters. With their names now known, the prosecution was able to find over 1,500 witnesses whose testimony served to disprove the validity of those files. The first Frankfurt Auschwitz trial began on December 20th, 1963. Over the next 20 months, more than 300 witnesses testified to the daily atrocities of the Auschwitz concentration camp. For many Germans, This was their first in-depth look into the horrifying daily routine of the extermination machinery at Auschwitz. The vast majority of the accused present at the proceedings showed little to no remorse. On August 19, 1965, over 20 years after the end of World War II, the first Frankfurt-Auschwitz trial came to a close. 2 more followed. On July 1st, 1968, a month after the last of the trials, Fritz Bauer was found dead in his apartment in Frankfurt. He was 64.
The names of the real prosecutors are Gerald Weiss, George Frederick Vogel, Joachim Kugler, Hans Grobman. We can't make heaven out of earth, but each of us can do something to prevent it from becoming hell. Fritz Bauer. That was sort of a shocking end there. Paint Bucket Games, this was a phenomenal game. The only complaint I have about it at all is I want more. I would love for them to put out some DLC and perhaps give me a few more cases that are in between the ones that I had. You could give me some more Nazi ones. It could fit in between the first case I had and the second case. You could give me maybe a case that could go after that last case I had before the Auschwitz stuff started. I would love more. I'm happy with what I had. Definitely was worth the price of the game. It is without a question so far my favorite game of the sort of criminal justice genre. I loved the ones where I get to be the judge and make decisions. But there's something even more rewarding about this where I have to figure it out and then prove it in court. I really, really enjoyed this, and I hope that you guys did as well. That was a rough ending at the end there. I had to make the decision of, do I protect my own father, or do I admit that he was possibly a really bad person? And I did what I felt was right. I needed to report him. If he did these things, then he is a bad person. It's just the way it is. With that being said, though, I'm going to let the end credits here play, because the game definitely deserves it for all the people who took part in it. If you enjoyed the game, please go ahead and click that like button. And if you've not already, please subscribe to the channel, click the bell icon so you're aware when I produce new videos in the future. Thank you, and I hope to have you join me for more criminal justice and court-related games in the future.